From Brabus smart cars to multi-million-dollar cars, here are the most expensive cars from every car brand, starting with Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, I got this in the bag. It's the NSX, but no, sir. Remember the NSX? Well, it went bye-bye back in 2022. So that means the current most expensive Acura is, well, the Acura MDX Type S Advance at a whopping 75,250 bones. And honestly, an all-aluminum twin-turbo V6 is pretty sick. Next, Alfa Romeo. Now, this is another tricky one since their most expensive car isn't actually listed on their website's inventory. That, folks, is the new 33 Stradale supercar. It's a twin-turbo hybrid V6 stunner that is estimated by Car and Driver to cost around $1 million. And yes, it has already been sold to exactly 33 customers, of course. It's Italian after all, who are taking delivery at the beginning of this year. Up next, Alpine. And in base form, the amazing Alpine A110 is already their most expensive car at around 68,000 USD. But the special limited edition A110R Ultimate tried 380,000. Good thing it isn't available in the US or I'd be taking out a second mortgage right now. Next up is Aston Martin, and yet again, there's kind of a dispute here. On one hand, the incredible F1 inspired Valkyrie is easily the most expensive at between 3.5 and 4 million bucks, but this year's model isn't out yet. So technically, the new Valiant with its twin turbo V12, a $2.5 million price tag, well, that takes the cake. Now on to Audi, which is not your belly button, but a car brand. And similar to Acura, you probably thought you knew what the most expensive car was, right? Supercar, the Audi R8, which your boy owned. But same as the NSX, the R8 is dead and gone. Rest in peace, legend. Now, the most expensive Audi is the limited production RS6 Avant GT with a price tag of over 200,000. That's over 70,000 more than the regular and already really expensive RS6 Avant. And next up is Bentley, the brutish Brit that keeps costing more every single year. And this year, it is no exception, with their most expensive car being the convertible version of the Continental GT Speed Mulliner at a whopping $363,550. It's your turn, Bimmer boys, and it's probably not the M3 Comp that you thought, is it? That's right, BMW's most expensive car is the 738 horsepower all-electric XM Label Red SUV, topping out at $186,000. And yes, it is faster than your G80. Up next is a Bugatti, and this one is pretty easy. They launched their newest model, the insane 1800 horsepower V16 powered Tourbillon, just this past summer. And the price is even more bonkers. It's estimated to be around 4.6 mil. Buick, and thank God that we finally have another regular car. All those big hitters were making me feel poor. Rightly so. Anyways, the most expensive Buick is the Enclave Avenir. The Avenir being the tippy top form for all four Buicks of the Buick's current models, and this one comes in at $59,395. Continuing with our American brands, up next is Cadillac. And while the most expensive price that's listed on their website is for the new Escalade V at a whopping $160,000, it's actually the new electric Solistic sedan that takes the cake. You know it's expensive because it says price by inquiry only on the website. Reportedly, it'll run you about 340 grand. Up next is Chevrolet, the blue bow tie, and it's not hard to imagine that the Corvette is gonna be the top one in the price range, is it? But which one, you ask? The E-Ray? No, it's the Corvette ZR1, which starts out at roughly 180,000 bucks. But if you opt for the most expensive 3LZ trim, it'll cost you around 200,000 or more. And guys, is it just me or is that a lot of money for a vet? Chrysler is up next, and I'm gonna save you some time because they only have one vehicle, the Pacific minivan. It's priced up to $61,480 and it's the Pinnacle hybrid trim. So I guess it's both the cheapest and the most expensive. On to the next. More Merca, it's Dodge time. Since the new Charger isn't fully released yet, it only seems to start at around 50 grand. Highest output 6-pack trim. That means the current most expensive Dodge in the lineup is the Durango SRT Hellcat Hammerhead. Yeah, with a big old price tag of 115 grand. We're into the F, folks. That means Ferrari. Currently, the most expensive model is the Daytona SP3 with a price point of 2.33 mil. Sheesh. But I'm also gonna add in the newest Halo car, the F80, which will arrive next year and cost around 3.1 million bucks. We haven't had a Halo car since the LaFerrari, the double Ferrari. And this one's supposed to make almost 1,200 horses. Exciting stuff, except it'd still get waxed by a Corvette. More Italy coming right up. It's time for Fiat. And much like Chrysler, they only have one model this year, the Fiat 500e. But so far, the only version available is the Giorgio Armani edition, which, what the hell? It costs 38,000 bucks. And now we are back with Ford. Now, the Ford GT has been out of production for some time now, but there's an equally exciting and expensive car this year in their lineup, the Mustang GTD. It's got 800 horsepower, supercharged V8, and basically everything from a GT race car that you could get. And of course, it's pricey. MSRP starts at $325,000, and you had to apply like an influencer to get an allocation. Up next is the Korean big hitter, Genesis, and it's their flagship sedan, the G90, that takes the cake for the most expensive of the bunch. It starts around 90 grand, but you can get well over 6 figures for the E-Supercharged edition. GMC is up next, and unless you've been living under a rock, you're aware of their Hummer rebrand recently. And well, it's already their most expensive product, with the Hummer EV3X trim costing buyers over $106,000. But hey, at least it can grab walk. Next up is Honda, and have you ever heard of the Honda Prologue? Well, now you have, because its elite all-wheel drive form is the one. It is their most expensive product at an estimated 60,000 bucks. And yes, the lower trims start much cheaper, but it's genuinely amazing to see how premium a Honda price tag can be now. On to Hyundai, which rhymes with Sunday, and it's no surprise their top dollar model comes with their racy N brand. And this year, the most expensive of the bunch is the 601 horsepower Ioniq 5N, which comes in at a heavyweight 67,575. I need one like yesterday. They're really cool. Over in Japan, and we're looking at Infiniti, and it's only Infiniti and beyond when you're talking about their most expensive car in their lineup. This thing is a brute in the best way possible. And if you want a top trim QX80 in the Autograph Edition, it's gonna set you back 112,590 bucks. Next up, Jaguar, and oops, they're kinda not even operating as a company right now. Have you seen this stuff? But they still have one remaining vehicle in their lineup, which is the F-Pace SUV. And going by Chrysler Pacifica rules, this is by default their most expensive car, with the top trim P400R Dynamic S coming in at $67,875. Next, staying in the J's, and it's time for Jeep or Jeep. And right off the bat, the Grand Wagoneer is the obvious pick. I mean, it starts at 85,000 bucks, but if you really got that dough and love the Wagoneer, you can go for the highest trim, Series 3 Obsidian, which costs 109,000 before options. We are back to Korea, 감사합니다, chamanayo, but this time it's Kia, and their most expensive car on sale today is actually electric. On a dual set net, it's the EV9 SUV, though it starts at a completely normal $54,900. The GT line all-wheel drive trim, you're gonna have to shell out $73,900 dollars. Now, all of their cars cost a ridiculous amount of money, but the most current and most expensive car has to be the Jesko Absolute, which costs around $3 million. For that, you get 1,600 horsepower twin turbo V8, a gorgeous interior, and a top speed of over 300 miles per hour. That's pure insanity, folks. Up next, more insanity with none other than Lamborghini. Now, Lambo has a few special editions worth millions of dollars, but none of those are truly as special as the Revuelto. It is a whole different story. This specimen is the most expensive and high-performance Lamborghini that you can currently go out and buy. It costs $600,000. More than you can afford, pal. Lamborghini. Continuing in the L's, let's go to Land Rover. You probably could have guessed that the Range Rover department would have the most expensive product, and you'd be absolutely correct. Enter the Land Rover Range Rover P615 SV. 606 horses from a twin turbo V8, a stunning gorgeous interior, and yep, it all starts at $210,000. Up next, Lexus. And no, it is not the LC500, though it definitely looks like it should cost $500,000. The actual most expensive Lexus is my mom's RX350 hybrid. I'm just kidding. It's actually the LX600 Ultra Luxury. These SUVs are legendary for not only their world-class comfort, but also their surprising amount of off-road ability. No kidding. And the newest model, well, it'll run you $134,490 before options. Up next is Lincoln, and they're already the most expensive version of the Ford, but what is the most expensive Lincoln? The title goes to the new Navigator Black Label L. This is a special edition appearance package on top of the highest trim that you can get. It's the most Lincoln-y Lincoln there is, and it costs $119,490. What's next? Lotus. And one of the most interesting picks on this list. Obviously, the most expensive product is the all-new, all-electric hypercar, the 2,000 horsepower Avaya. But technically, this is last year's model, and they are reportedly to be sold out, which would disqualify them from this year's running. But Lotus says that there are still some build slots available for folks to buy right now, meaning that they will still sell you a brand new Avaya. So yeah, go get your checkbooks and go buy one for 2.3 mil. Damn, there is a lot of L's. This time, Lucid, the newest and most insane electric car brand from California. And this one, well, it's super easy. It's the Lucid Air Sapphire. Again, all electric with 1,234 horsepower. Yes, that is very satisfying. And it's got suspension tuning on par with the likes of Porsche. In fact, this thing was kind of built to be the new E39 M5, which makes Trav really proud. This is a serious car, which is why it has a serious price tag. Fully equipped, you can get one for $249,000 or $1,000 less than $250,000. Okay, finally we are out of the L's and onto the M's, starting with the Maserati. And clearly the MC20 supercar is their most expensive product, but it gets even crazier. There's of course the Spider version and the MC20 and some MC12 tribute specials, but then there is the MC20 GT2 Stradale, the barely road legal version of the MC20 race car. And it's funny because we actually know how much the race car costs, $522,000, but we don't actually know how much the road going version costs, which is kind of weird because regular people could go buy it. But it is accepted amongst anyone that has a brain that the GT2 Stradale will cost nearly as much as the race car, probably in the $400,000 to $500,000 to $600,000 range. Don't you think? From one M to the next M, that's M&M, that's the real Slim Shady, and this is Mazda. And I love Mazda, but until they build the iconic SP sports car for production, we're gonna have to settle for the SUV as the most expensive car. That being the new CX-90 PHEV Premium Plus at a price of $57,950. In fact, it's just narrowly beating out the CX-70 PHEV Premium Plus by $500. Either way, Mazda is one of the most affordable brands on this list overall. Who would have thunk? On to McLaren. Now, if you wanted the complete opposite of Mazda on the spectrum, here it is. McLaren doesn't have a car that costs under $224,000. And the most expensive? Well, it's a special one. The brand new W1. It's the holy trinity of the Trinity, and it's the successor to the F1 and P1 hypercars of the past, and it has McLaren's new hybrid V8, good for 1,258 horses. And believe it or not, all 399 W1s have already been spoken for. So, since they're already sold out, this is the ultimate. And how much did each one of those guys have to spend? 2.1 mil before options. Next up is the Mercedes, but technically their most expensive car isn't really a Mercedes. It's not even a Mercedes AMG. It's a Mercedes-Maybach, the highest class division of Mercedes that hand builds customer order cars for its most affluent patrons. And of the Maybach line, one stands above all, the Maybach S684 Matic, the 621 horse twin turbo V12 S-Class that's kind of a Mercedes. And most buyers probably won't even drive themselves. Funny enough, starting price, $240,000, $500,000. Like, yeah, $250,000. Up next is Mini. Now, they don't build a racy two-door John Cooper Works Mini anymore, but they do offer a JCW Countryman option, the JCW Countryman All-4. This is their most expensive product at $46,900, and it actually has an impressive 312 horses, if you know what I'm talking about, from its BMW-derived turbocharged four-banger. Okay, now the last M, I am cleaning out my closet, and they are known for very affordable cars, but even more than Mazda. Yet they do have one slightly bigger hitter that stands above them all. The new Outlander PHEV SEL Black Edition. It's basically a nifty appearance package with a sunroof, some new wheels, and some massaging seats. And the MSRP comes out at $48,895. Finally, we are into the ends, and let's look at Nissan. Obviously, the Nissan GTR is going to be their most expensive product, and the Nismo version is always the most premium trim. But this year, the last production year of the GTR, they haven't released any into the US yet. Only into Japan, and there isn't even a Nismo yet this year. So that means the JDM GTR is currently the most expensive Nissan on sale at around $122,000 USD. Yes, Pagani. In 2023, they unveiled the Utopia. It was a V12 manual transmission successor to the Huayra. But this year, they unveiled the Roadster version, which costs an extra $1 million on top of the regular one and is being sold to exactly 130 customers for a whopping $3.8 million each. I'd sell my leg for a manual transmission Utopia, but then I couldn't use the clutch pedal, so probably not gonna happen. Next up, Polestar, the brand that Volvo gave birth to, or something. I don't know. But this is another interesting one, as they have technically announced their newest sports car, the Polestar 6. Which will cost over $100,000 and have over 800 electrified horsepower, but is not listed on their website, and as far as I can tell, no one has ever been able to order one yet. So that leaves the Polestar 2 as their most expensive current product, with the price of $66,200. Whew, yes, Porsche, baby. Give me some. But most of you probably already guessed which Porsche is the most expensive. And yes, it's the 911 GT3. It comes in regular and touring trim, which costs $224,495. But that RS model, that'll run you up to a tippy top of the lineup of $243,295. I really want one. Up next, Ram steps up to the plate, and I was actually really surprised that the 1500 Row, the new Ram EV, and even the TRX weren't the most expensive truck. Actually, the TRX is out of production now, so it wouldn't count anyways. But the most expensive model and trim you can buy is the Ram 2500 or 3500 with the ominous sounding tungsten trim package that will cost a ridiculous estimated $92,000 this year. Next up is Rivian, one of the newest brands on this list actually. They have had a couple of cars on sale, but they don't disappoint in the pricing department. The most expensive is the R1S Ascend Tri-Motor. This SUV is all electric, futuristic as hell, and costs a big ol' sum of $107,700. Next, Rolls-Royce, the most expensive brand that doesn't make a supercar. So listen, the base model Phantom costs $510,000. That's crazy. Well, the extended version bumps that up to $560,000. Insane, of course. But there is a super limited edition of which only 10 were built. It's called the Phantom Scintilla Private Collection. This thing only has one paint scheme, a two-tone blue and white, as well as a bunch of special interior aluminum artwork and a one-of-a-kind ceramic coating on the trademarked Spirit of Ecstasy hood ornament. Only 3 of the 10 are coming to the US, and they cost $1 million each, plus whatever crazy options the customer chooses. Up next, we have a weird one, the Brabus 4.2. Yes, it's technically a smart car, but with a Brabus twist. That means it's no longer just a quirky little city cruiser. It's got more horsepower, a meaner stance, and an interior that screams luxury, all packed into a car so tiny it makes a Mini Cooper look massive. And while it's not the fastest thing on the road, it's definitely the most baller smart car that you can buy. Now, when they were new, you could get one for $35,000 as a cabriolet. I guess big things do come in small packages. At least that's what my mom says. On to Subaru, and in the absence of the STI version of the WRX, we are forced to look at SUVs for Subaru's most expensive product, introducing the Solterra Touring trim. You're gonna spend $54,000 for this, and every person that wants an STI is crying that they don't make them anymore. So, Solterra it is. Now, this is another oddball, Suzuki. And they haven't sold cars in North America for like 10 years, but hey, still, they sell a shit ton of cars around the world. And though researching this was hard because there aren't really any NA-centric sales figures, it looks like one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, is the Grand Vitara, which can be priced up to $40,000. P.S. If there's anybody that lives in countries where Suzuki still sells vehicles, please let me know if I'm wrong down in the comments below. It's Tesla time. For the last few years, the Model S and Model X Plaid performance models were the creme de la creme de Tesla. But ever since this year, when Cybertrucks were finally ready, it took the cake for the company's most expensive product. Currently, the Cybertruck Beast is the one. 834 electric horsepower and $102,235 starting price. Toyota, I'm gonna give you the mic because they have a lot of products. They have sports cars, SUVs, trucks, and even a van. But much like the Infiniti XQ80, it's the most gargantuan Toyota product that has the biggest price tag. And that, my friends, is the new Sequoia Capstone, which is the highest trim level and costs a whopping $85,660. Next, all right, Volkswagen. Their most expensive car is probably the most lovable one in the entire lineup, besides the Golf R. And it's the new ID Buzz. The electric microbus starts at a pretty high $61,545. But in its very tippy top trim, the first edition all-wheel drive, you can spend $71,545. Honestly, worth it. I mean, look at it. It's so cool. And it's a depreciation monster, I'm sure. Okay, it's Volvo's turn. And I gotta say, I thought it was the XC90 because it literally has like 18 different trims, or so I thought. But it actually gets pretty freaking expensive at the 18th trim, a whopping $81,000. Although the most expensive is the EX90, the new electric SUV, which in its top form, the twin motor Performance Ultra, it costs $90,640. And if you couldn't already tell, well, we're into the V's, and that's at about 50 total car brands, and I am running out of breath. So we're gonna call it a day. Did we miss any? Which one's your favorite? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this vid, like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and check out these Ideal vids over here. I'm Brad, this is Ideal. We'll see you next week, and promise me one thing, keep living the Ideal lifestyle.